Welcome back, everybody. Today, I would like to talk about the very first step to take if you are considering creating for yourself an NBE, which again is a near birth experience as defined by me, Kristin Anderson, who went to the gates of life in my childbirth experience and picked up the soul of my child from the actual gates of life where all the souls are waiting to come to earth. So yes, I call that an NBE. And in order to make that a reality for yourself, I would say the very first thing that you need to do is choose. And this is part of the manifestation process. The very first step, and probably the hardest step, is to choose. And when you make a choice, it needs to be a definitive choice. In order to stick to your choice, no matter what happens, you need to really, really desire it. You need to have more than just I think I'll try that kind of attitude. It needs to be a definitive choice backed by your will, backed by your why, backed by every fiber of your being. Because once you start to go into action to manifest this situation for yourself, you will be met with all the reasons why it's not going to work for you, or all the people who think you're crazy, and all the people who are going to warn you about the health ramifications, or, in my case, people around me were worried that I might die. And that was scary. It is scary, but I wanted it so badly. I didn't even know what I wanted because I didn't know that that was a possibility. So right now, that actually is a possibility, to have a childbirthing experience that is so unbelievably blissful that you will be basically on cloud nine for years, and you'll be able to recall that feeling at any moment because it's a feeling that you felt, which, if you haven't had that experience, you have not felt that yet. So it's a very special thing. And making the choice to have something that is blissful or better, something that is beyond every expectation that you could possibly imagine, that is your choice point. And it is the very first step in creating this for yourself. So let's talk about choice right now. One of the things that I've noticed when I listen to many of my mentors, and I have a few like self-development mentors, because even though I've had this experience, I've also had a really turbulent life in relationships. I have definitely seen a lot of trauma and abuse in relationships, and I'm always working on myself and working through that. So one of the things that I noticed recently with all the mentors going back to 20 years ago is they get very excited, and then they get you to make a choice. So, and a recent thing that I watched with Tony Robbins is the same thing. And he actually described this. And he said, if you're making a choice from a very low vibrational state, which is like maybe apathy or depression or fear, then you're less likely to stick with it. And if you make your choice from a higher state, like maybe after you worked out or you did a cold plunge, I don't recommend that for women, but if you did, that's fine. It is an invigorating thing. You have a higher chance of sticking to those choices. So when we make this choice to have a blissful birth, an ecstatic birth, an NBE, you want to do it when you're in a very high vibrational state, a happy state, an excited state, and then do your very, very best to maintain that. So in my case, what that looked like was a constant stream of information coming into my mind through books, movies, podcasts, meditations that supported my decision. And I didn't listen to people around me. I listened to, like, one of my favorite videos, it wasn't a video, it's a CD, is Bella Ruth Naparstak. It was a 1-hour meditation, and I put it in my CD player, which we had at the time, and I just had it on repeat, and I would just have it in the background. When I tell you all day, I'm not kidding. It was almost on 24 hours, especially when I slept. I put it in my headphones, and it just went right into my brain while I was sleeping. And in that meditation are affirmations about the power of your body and the power of God and infinite wisdom of all things. And just keeping that in your mind. Like, you don't have to know how to make a baby. You don't have to know how to give birth. Your body will do it if you let it. And that was my biggest support, is these movies that I watched and all of that, because the people around me were afraid. Because when I got pregnant, I was 40, and although I might not be such a big deal now, at the time, it was kind of unheard of that I would do a natural childbirth at home at 40, because according to all the medical doctors, which, you know, I'm in full disagreement with most of the time, I was high risk and would probably be scheduled for a C-section, which I was just not having. So, and right there in what I said, I was just not having it. That is the choice. I made that sort of level of choice. Like, absolutely not. Are you going to the hospital? Absolutely not. Are you going to be at home? Absolutely. No matter what. And through that process, I was able to manifest this experience. Another interesting thing is that at the end of my childbirth, when I actually came back to the room, and if you want to hear the story, go a few episodes back and you can hear the full story. But there was a moment when, I think it was about 45 minutes after I birthed my child, and the placenta still hadn't birthed. Who knew that was a thing? I didn't at the time, but now you're aware that is a thing. So you birth the baby and then you birth the placenta. And for me, it hadn't come out. And I remember the midwife coming over to me. She was so fierce, and she is fierce. I love her. She said, if you don't birth the placenta in the next 5 minutes, we're going to the hospital. And she knew what to say to me, I think, because I was like, hospital? No, we're not going to the hospital. And I basically closed my eyes, talked to my actual body, thanked it, and said, it's time to let that go. And I birthed the placenta within seconds. So I can't overstate the power of the choice that you make. You can't be wishy-washy about it, because wishy-washy leaves room for other paths. And when you're in the manifestation process, which this is, you are choosing something and you're sticking to it so strongly that anything else just isn't an option. And that piece is absolutely crucial. Let's talk about choice again in other ways. So I have recently just been very interested in the manifestation process in other areas of my life, because I did manifest this and a few other things very easily. And there are other parts of my life where this process does not work as well. And I've been investigating it and really trying to map out the actual process. And what I found is creating and choosing this very first step is number one crucial aspect of the manifestation process in all areas of your life. So you can take this and use it in other areas. We're talking about birth right now, but it does apply to everything because the process is the same for everything. I read a book a few years back when I started studying money and finance and manifestation on another level. It's called Lucky Bitch by Denise Duffield Thomas. And she describes in that book her process of manifesting a trip around the world for a year with her husband. And the very first step in her process was to make this choice that they were going to win this contest. Now, the difference between what she describes in this book and what you will be doing in your childbirthing manifestation experience is that they manifested something that had a lot of moving parts and many other people involved, thousands probably of people who applied for this contest, sweepstakes. And with you and your birth, you literally are the only person involved. Truly, you and your baby. That's it. And the baby is involved, so you need to talk to the spirit of your baby, which is hanging around. It's not sealed in until that first breath, but the soul of your child is around and waiting for the body. So you can speak to them, and that is crucial. So you have two aspects in your manifestation process. You have yourself and the choice that you've made, and you have the soul of your child and your baby. So you're going to be working together. It's a co-creation, right? So in her book, I mean, there were thousands, I'm sure, of applicants to this sweepstakes to win this trip, but the process is the same. They made a choice, and then they created their environment during the whole year as they were waiting for the sweepstakes to end to support that choice. And they didn't question it. They never thought they were not going to win. They said, we are winning. We are going. And they changed their lives to support that so strongly that they quit their jobs. They sold their cars. They terminated their living space that they were so in. And this is before they won, before the announcement. That is the kind of choice. That's the level of choosing that it has to be. Like, you make that choice and then you curate your life around that choice. And in that process, you cannot not win. Now, I don't know if there were two people who were entered into that sweepstakes who both were doing that. Maybe they did a little bit better, but I tend to think not, because a lot of people don't understand the manifestation process. I didn't for a very long time. I'm just starting to understand it on even a deeper level, even though I've done it multiple times. The book I wrote, Roll the Dice, is a instantaneous manifestation process, but I also was in another state of mind. So as we're in the waking world, how does that translate? And that sort of has been my investigation for many years. Like, how can I take this thing that I naturally did and break it down into steps that I can use in any area of life? And step number 1 is this: choose. And it's probably the hardest step, because your mind gets in the way and it wants to keep you safe. As you know, and you have heard, the mind just wants to keep you safe. So it will start saying, oh, you can't do that because you're going to end up in the hospital, or you might die, or what if you bleed out, or what if they're stillborn, or what if the cord's around the neck, or what are we going to do, and who's going to be there, and I got to have backup, and I don't want to have an episiotomy, I'm going to have stitches, I'm going to find out have sex later, like so many factors. So that choice to do it naturally, do it without pain, do it at home in the water, do it the best way possible for your body. I mean, I didn't tear, I didn't have stretch marks, I had virtually no pain, definitely pressure, but I certainly wouldn't call it pain. I also had a baby that hadn't flipped for, until like really close to the time. And we actually were talking about going to the hospital because the baby could be breech. And I was just not having it. I just said no. And I started talking to the baby like, you need to turn around. Otherwise, we're going to the hospital, and that's not what we want. And, he did eventually turn with a little help from Dr. Berlin Chiropractic in Los Angeles. I think he's in Wilshire. Probably moved by now. But yeah, I did everything in my power to uphold my decision. And I think that is why I was able to create this experience. So the thing that you need to ask yourself is, what kind of experience do you want? What is it that you want to create? And then choose that. And choose it 200%, 500%, 1,000%. Choose it with every cell and mitochondria in your body. Choose it with all of your auric field. Choose it with your body, your mind, and your soul. Choose it with the soul of your unborn child. Make a pact with them, because this is a co-creation. And then stick to it. And then put all the pieces in place. That's the next step, is put all the pieces in place. Curate your environment to support that. We will talk about curating your environment to support that next time. This time, I really just want you to think about what you want. And think about it in the realm of infinite possibility. What could be the best case scenario for you? What would be the ultimate experience that would make your soul sing? That's the thing that you want to choose. An experience that will light you up. What would that be? And choose that on all levels of your existence. Make that choice. That choice is everything in the manifestation process of all things. And most people actually never make that choice. We live in a world where we have so much input and so much input of fear and violence on top of it that the brain is so unsettled. It's so unclear that it does have a hard time making a choice. It's bouncing all over the place. There are so many people now that have ADHD. It's kind of ridiculous. I feel like it's most people, all the people that I know have it. And I think it's a combination of food and society and input. It's just a massive state of fear that's happening. And it keeps you from making a definitive choice. So you need to clear your field and make a choice. During this time, I was listening to Solfeggio frequencies a lot, which if you don't know what that is, just look it up. Just a very calming sounds, not necessarily music with words. The music that is being put out with words is very, it's all over the place. You can choose even, whatever style of music you choose, there are always words that will resonate with your current state. And then but not all the lyrics, right? So there'll be like a line that maybe resonates and then the rest of the song doesn't resonate and you're listening to it still. And all of those words are powerful and they go into your subconscious and they create your reality. So at that time, I was really focused on that. So I had a lot of quiet sounds around me, like birds singing or the crackling of a fire or a solfeggio tone. Very peaceful and grounding so that your mind itself, your brain itself can just calm down a little bit in order to make a choice, in order to feel in your body what feels like I might want that. Because when you're bombarded with input and you're having all that input, you're not taking the time to output, basically. And your choice is an output. It is what you are going to create, not what you're taking in. I hope that makes sense. So sit with that. I would say pull out a journal and put on your solfeggio frequency and just sit in the quiet and listen to what your heart wants. Listen to what your soul wants. Listen to the impulses of your body. What would be blissful for you? And choose that. Write it in your journal. Write the story around it. Write how you will feel when it happens. And you could do that every day, because you're going to want to bathe your psyche in this information, because you're going to have to counteract all the negative from the outside getting input in order to create from this place. You have to maximize your output frequency, right? And in order to do that, you have to limit the input. You can't do both at the same time, right? Well, you can, but it's a balance equation, right? you have to get the output higher than the input. You have to have your desire a little higher than what is happening on the outside coming in. And also surrounding yourself with people who support this decision. That we'll talk about in the next episode. The first thing is to make the choice, because you can't curate your environment until you make that choice. So what is it that you want? And you could, this is not only about birth. It can be about life and anything that you put your mind to. So making that choice is step number 1. Pull out that journal, light a candle, listen to your solfeggios, and just zone out on the feeling of what it is that you'd like to experience, and choose with every fiber of your being. That's my message today. That is step 1. And good luck with that. I hope this has benefited you. And if it has, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. It's just starting and I would love to grow it. So hit that subscribe button and I will talk to you next week. Bye for now.